beat him out of his hunger, so to speak.
Yeah, go fair.
All these guys are brothers too. Okay. How many of you seen the movie Rudy by a show of hands? Pretty good representation. I'm going to give you a little story how I can relate to that film. Back in 1982, actually it was 1981, my father was diagnosed with cancer when I was in 8th grade. It was devastating news to the family. The doctor gave him 6 months to a year to live. So I wanted my dad to be proud. So I went out for the freshman football team. And the reaction I got was my dad said, "Are you nuts? You're going to get yourself killed." And my mom said, "Let him go out for the team anyway." So mom was encouraging, dad was saying, my freshman year, I got the nickname Cowboy, and that was given to me by Coach Rick Straz because I used to draw my numbers. We would be out doing our calisthenics, jumping jacks, and I'd say 1, 2, 3, and for whatever reason he goes, "Man, he's drawing those numbers like he's a cowboy." So the name stuck, and they just started calling me the Cowboy. I received number 42, which was randomly thrown to me by Coach Ulmer, and so I just decided to keep the number. I liked it, so I kept it for the next 4 years. And my sophomore year, I was coached by Coach Paul Capaz and Coach K. Nothing really substantial happened during those first 2 years. I wasn't the biggest kid on the team. I was pretty small, like Rudy. 5 foot nothing, 100 nothing. Barely any athletic ability. But nonetheless, I get put in games if we had huge wins or huge losses. But by my junior year, I started playing varsity football. As you young kids are going to be well aware that as you go further in your career, there's less and less of you. It's kind of almost a weeding out process. But I met Coach Sumbera, and he seemed larger than life to me. I call him the Bo Schembechler of high school football. Bo Schembechler was a huge athlete in our day. And Coach Sumbera had some terminology he used to use. One such term was prima donna. "Don't play like a prima donna." And I was pretty naive back then. I'm like, Madonna played football? And he used to say, "Play with tenacity." And I love that term, tenacity. I still use it today. Anyways, my junior year, we lost our first 2 games. And we lost to Lance Cruz. This is 1984. And what would happen from there is we'd be on the largest regular season winning streak in the school's history. It was a 26-game winning streak. Pretty amazing at that time. And I remember after losing to Lance Cruz, my daughter goes to Lance Cruz, by the way. She's in the audience right now. So she says, "Dad, Lance Cruz is not known for his football. We're known for our band." She's in the band. And Coach Sumbera's out there in the end zone and says, "We've never lost to Lance Cruz in the history of the school." And my dad was in the stands. He'd already beat me odds, with his cancer diagnosis. He's still alive 3 years later. And he says to me, hey, what was your coach yelling at? And he was giving you guys hell. And I dismissed it as, nah, it was just a pep talk. So we never lost a regular season game again until then. We ended the 1984 season 7-2. I believe we were tied for the bi-county record, weren't we? So we got our little trophies, which was pretty cool. They had the bi-county league back then. I think it's Macomb area white division or something like that. Blue. And I picked up my first varsity letter, which is cool. I finally got to wear one of those cool jackets. So for those first 3 years, I was pretty much a scout team player. When the defense was out playing, I was out playing the wide receiver. When the offense was playing, I was playing defensive halfback. I was basically a human tackling dummy. But I knew every darn play, and to this day, I still watch football, and it's a passion of mine. You do that when you're getting played both the offense and the defense. By my senior year, I looked forward to being on the special teams. However, a helmet butt to my right thigh would ground me for several weeks at the hands of Mike the Kid Miller. I guess if you're going to get injured, it may as well be by Mike the Kid Miller. This was in preseason practice. So I had limited range of motion, meiosis ossification. In other words, in plain English, I had a calcium deposit on my thigh. But I underwent physical therapy, the non-surgical method, and I was able to bounce back from it. And I think in some ways this inspired to keep my dad to keep going. At times I almost wanted to quit. I said, what's the point? And my dad said, you made a commitment and you will go to practice. So that was it. I went to practice right after the physical therapy. I'd watch it from the sidelines. But 6 weeks later, I astounded the physical therapist and the doctors. I rebounded from the injury, and I took to the practice field again. My dad's cancer got worse. He had survived 5 cancer surgeries. He lived over 4 years with surpassing the original diagnosis. And we used to toss the pigskin around in the front yard. And I think these were some of the best times that I remember about my dad. I found out he was a first-string tackle on his football team. Never told me about it. So 2 regular season games passed. Still, I'm waiting to get into a darn game. But it was a crisp fall afternoon, and it was a north-south game. The date was November 2nd, 1985. It was a Saturday, and we didn't have lights on the field back then, gents. And we were at Grosse Pointe South High School. And we were winning by a huge margin, 37-0. And then finally, Coach Sumbera turns to me and he says, Farrell, get in the game. So the first snap, it flew over my head, and it flew over the Grosse Pointe South wide receiver's head. And the ball was grounded, nothing big happened. The second snap, the ball bounced off my fingertips as I jumped up, and I was able to break up the pass, which was cool. But then my mom was in the stands. My dad is too ill to attend, and she said a little prayer. She's a very devout Catholic woman. Please, Lord, give him just one good play. And this next play soars through the air, and the South player catches it. And my eyes would not leave that darn ball. And I leapt forward, I tackle a guy, I look up in the stands, my mom is standing there, looking down at me from the stands. And she says, I'm proud of you. It's made a huge difference because it was a breakthrough with my parents. They were from a generation that just didn't get out praise. My dad was born in 1920. My mom was born in 1924. And when I got home that day, that's all my mom could talk about was this big tackle I made. So the following Monday, November 4th, 2015, Coach Sumbera, he's lingering around the hallway. He's near the locker. My locker was where the front office is now. There used to be lockers there. The offices were in the back when all these guys were going there. And Coach Sumbera says to me, "Farrell," he was always short and terse with his responses. Say, "Farrell, you get a skull and crossbones. Congrats, you earned it." So that afternoon, we watched the game film. When we came to my tackle, we rewound the film 4 to 5 times. And these guys were all cheering about that, so it was a great moment, you know. You never forget that stuff. And then we took onto the practice field because this was the first ever playoff for Grosse Pointe North. And a week prior, I had a bear helmet. So that week, I had 3 decals on my helmet. A football for being the scout team champ of the week. A second football for breaking up the pass. And, of course, the skull and crossbones. And it was all gleaming in the waning fall sun as we prepared for Detroit Murray Wright the following week. The Murray Wright game was a real nail-biter. Up on stage right now is Craig Como and John Palazzo, and I call them the high school equivalent of Henny and Hart. If you guys know who that is, think of Michigan team Lloyd Carr's last year. Outstanding combination, those two. But Craig snaps a Hail Mary pass, John catches it on the 1-yard line, and we end up winning the game in the last seconds of the game, 19-18, right? Yep. Thanks, Coach. So, the following week we took on Catholic Central. We traveled to Lincoln Park High School, neutral territory I call it. Unfortunately, we lost the game. However, we ended the season. We were ranked number 8 in the Three Crest poll. And that awards night in 1985, Coach Sumbera stood up and he announced me as George Cowboy Farrell. And I got the Scout Team Champ Award for the year. The team votes on that. I still got that darn trophy. And since that time, I've been in the Marine Corps Reserve 6 years. I told the recruiter, if I can survive Frank Sumbera's double sessions, I can survive boot camp. Well, guess what? I was wrong. Basic training, Marine Corps, twice as worse. But I still made it, and I got honorably discharged 6 years later. I got 19 years total military time between the Marine Corps, the Air National Guard, and the Air Force Reserve. Over 20 years in my current job. Earned 2 bachelor's, 1 associate's, a master's, and I'm starting a second master's in January. So, I guess my word to you all is set a challenge for yourself, meet it, have a can-do attitude, and hope is instilled. So, a coworker 20 years ago was talking to me, and he says, we got on the subject of following your dreams. He says, "Why don't you go see that movie, Beauty? It's about a kid who follows his dreams." So I rented the film on VHS. It was very moving. And I showed the film to my mom and my sister. And my mom said, "Oh my gosh, that film is about you." And it nearly paralleled my own life 10 years earlier. And this past summer, I met the real Rudy Rudiger at Fishbones. And I got his autograph with my 2 daughters. And I told him about it, and Rudy says to me, "Now you know exactly how I felt," which was pretty cool. We had this bond. Very bizarre. But I'm mostly here to talk about an inspirational coach, and that would be Coach Sumbera. Military service in both the Marine Corps and the Air Force can be traced to a coach who gave me my chance. I'm still working on the parent thing. Father without 2 daughters, Courtney and Heidi. There's no instruction manual for raising kids, especially when you got girls.